Good evening. Good evening. I almost feel like I can use my voice to project. My name is Mark Sherwood. I'm the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for CPS. And this is our first Be Present Community Town Hall. So thank you for coming. At this time, I'd like to introduce our superintendent, Ironetta Wright.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So this is our first Be Present session, as Mark shared. This is our first Be Present session for this school year. Last year we did monthly sessions. We started in August and we ended in May. And so this year we took the feedback from last year. We wanted to make sure that our sessions this year were the information that we shared to start with was a little more specific to some of the communities that we work with and communities that we serve. So you may hear some conversation in the room as I'm speaking right now. We do have translators that are in the room right now, and they're translating for our bilingual families. So during that time, if they wave at me and they tell me to slow down just a bit, you might hear me stop, repeat, so we'll make sure that everyone is connected with us. Fair enough? How is everybody feeling? Has it been a long day for you all too? It's been a long day for me as well. All right, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We do believe in honoring time. I do apologize that I got caught in traffic, so I'm a little bit delayed, but I will make sure that we are done within the hour that we said that we would be. So thank you so much for being here. So just as we begin to talk about our snapshot and where we are as a district, we are the second largest district in Ohio. In Ohio. The only district that's larger than us is Columbus. Currently, we serve approximately 36,000 students. That's pre-K through 12th grade. We are the largest K-12 special education provider in Southwest Ohio as well. Our student population is about 84% eligible for free and reduced lunch, so it tells you the population of students that we serve. Currently, we service about 15,000 students on transportation. And I know that last year, transportation was really, really difficult for every single person. It's improved a bit this year. I see nods for that as well, and we're pleased that that is the case. And there are still areas that we're working on and working through. And we also transport 8,600 students through Metro. Our 9th through 12th grade students are on Metro. We do also offer that opportunity and service to our 7th and 8th grade students that choose to do so. Last year we started with the focus on the ABCs. And ABC stands for academics, behavior, and culture. We realized in transitioning into the district that Cincinnati Public Schools is doing a whole lot. And that was a whole lot that was really important. But the goal was to streamline the work that we were doing so that we could really be intentional and focused on where we needed to see our school district go next. The ABCs are still very important, so we're not changing the focus. This year we're looking to ignite the ABCs as we think about academics, behavior, and culture. We are excited that we are launching our strategic plan. And our strategic plan really focuses on 5 core areas. They're listed here for you. They're in no particular order because all of them are interconnected and all of them are interrelated. But if I start with the first, is support our students. We want to make sure that what we're doing in our schools, what we're doing in our school buildings, we are providing the necessary support to our students to ensure that all of them are successful. The next is we want to equip our educators with what they need to be successful in the classroom as well. As they are working with our students come with diverse needs. We serve diverse populations, and it is important that we're giving our teachers the support and the resources that they need to be effective in the classroom. We want to connect with the community, make sure that the community continues to be a part of the work and the fabric of what we do in Cincinnati Public Schools. Igniting innovation. You know, we're in a new world in many places. And who would have thought 30 years ago, even though they told us that you would have everything that you needed at your fingertips, you would have a computer that you could hold in your hand. Well, guess what? You have a computer that you can hold in your hand. Everything that you need to do on a computer, you can do on your cell phone in your hand. So we want to make sure that we continue to pour into our children and that we continue to ignite that innovation for what's important and what's exciting that's happening in the world around them. And we also want to continue to optimize operations. At the core of the work that we do, We have to make sure that we are operating efficiently and effectively. So those are our 5 core areas as we think about our strategic plan and the strategies to move forward in those spaces. Back in November, I applaud our board. In November, our board, actually before November, I started in May. So in May, the board decided to take on a new way of doing work, and they began to go through student outcome focused governance. And the interesting thing about student outcome focused governance is one of the baselines of that is focusing on outcomes, focusing on goals, setting goals for students and focusing on those goals. So in December, our board voted on outcomes, our goals, and guardrails. So the goals represent what we're looking to accomplish. The guardrails represent the values of the community. So our board went out to the community, our board had conversations with the community, got feedback from the community, and from there, they determined our goals, 1, and our guardrails, 2. So if you'll notice, we have 5 areas that we're focusing on in terms of our goals. It does not mean that we don't focus on other areas. These are just the ones that we monitor consistently. These are the ones that we'll do monitoring throughout the year. One thing that you'll begin to notice starting Monday that's different about our board meetings this year is one of the regular business meetings a month, and in each of our COW meetings, which are our committees of the whole, which is the meeting that we have where we don't really vote in that meeting, it's really the focus on academics, we'll talk about our data. We'll talk about monitoring the data so that you're looking at our progress toward the goals. Because if we're reaching the goals that we set, that means more of our students are being successful. That's why it's important. It's not just about moving numbers. When numbers go up, students improve. So that's why it's important to make sure that we're focusing on what's happening in the data, but recognize that behind every number, there are 2 eyes that are attached to it. And I want to make sure that we keep that as our focal point. But these are our 5 areas that we have selected to focus on over the next 3 to 5 years. I think when you see those areas, it makes sense to you why those things are important. 3rd grade reading, of course, is one of those. Making certain that we are closing the gaps between our Black and brown children and everyone else that we're serving in the district. We want to make certain that we're doing that. Algebra 1 is a gatekeeper course for high school. What does gatekeeper mean? That means that a student, in order to graduate, they have to pass Algebra 1 or an Algebra 1 equivalent. So for us, it's important that we increase the number of students that pass their Algebra 1 assessment. Most of our students take Algebra 1 in 9th grade. We do have some that take Algebra 1 earlier, but most of our students take Algebra 1 in 9th grade. It's important that we continue to work with our students such that when they take the Algebra 1 assessment, they pass it the first time. Why is it important for them to pass it the first time? Because then that opens opportunities for them in an upper level coursework that they're not going through cycles and cycles and cycles of remediation. Is everybody with me still? All right. The next, of course, is increasing our minority population in our College Credit Plus classes. That's really exciting because that's like money in your pocket. We cover the cost of the college course. In many of our high schools, our teachers are teachers that are teaching the courses in the high schools. We do have students that go onto campuses to take the courses, but we have many of our teachers that are credentialed to teach the courses at school. I imagine a world where before long, we will have an actual early college program where students graduate from high school with their AA already. I imagine that world, and I know it's going to happen. Everybody close your eyes and see it with me. I know it's going to happen because there is such a belief in the opportunities that are available for our students. And last but not least, of course, is increasing graduation rate. Graduation rate is one of those areas that seems a bit cloudy to some, so let me make it very, very simple for you. 9th grade is when the graduation cohort starts. So the way that you determine graduation rate is where students are, and they enter in the 9th grade, the expectation is that 4 years later they graduate. They start 9th grade, so this is 2023. So the students that start in 2023, in 9th grade, it is the expectation that 2027 will be their last year of school. right? Everybody with me? One of the challenges becomes, along the way, you lose students. So if students go to another school district in Ohio, generally we can find those students. However, students leave the area. They leave the state. They make other choices. And so if we can't find where those students don't get accounted for where they are, and they go against our graduation rate. There are also other conversations to have about graduation rate for students that are special needs, because there are different parameters for our special needs students that are not on a regular ed diploma. So it's important that we're looking at how we're improving the graduation rate, but really understanding what the graduation rate represents. And then we go through our guardrails. I think these guardrails are on our website. There's been a lot of questions around the superintendent will not, and some people didn't like that terminology. One of the reasons that the Council of Great City Schools uses that particular terminology is because if it is not the expectation that the board is giving directives to the superintendent. So if you say it as will not, then it gives it as an option, but not necessarily a directive. I think it's a play on words. If we change it, I don't think anybody cares, as long as we focus on these areas as values. So these are our values. So a few updates. How many know that we have reopened Bramble? If you know, wave at me. All right, so that's been one huge update. We do have still active right now a Bramble community survey. We're getting feedback from the community, from those that are connected to the community. For those that did not know, Bramble has not been a part of our school district for many years. I believe it's almost 10 years. And there have been a variety of charter schools that have been in the school. While we have other schools in the Madisonville neighborhoods, we did not own that one, and it was important to us that we brought that school back to our portfolio of schools, and with the support of the board, we were able to do that this year. Last year, we started finance town hall meetings, and that's done with my counterpart, our treasurer, and one of the board members. And so this first one, and this really is about financial transparency. It's a place where you can come and you can ask questions. It gives you a better idea of a variety of things about how we do business around finances. One of those is building the budget. Another that was popular last year was how schools are identified as Title I. Those were two very, very popular areas. But our first one is September the 27th. It is in person, and it's also on, we do it on Facebook Live as well. So if you're able to attend, it is at our office in the ILC. And if you're not able to attend, you can log on to Facebook Live. And once it's on Facebook Live, the information is there. So if you're not able to engage with it right then, you're able to go back. Our Walnut Hills entrance exam registration deadline is September the 26th. On my way here, I think that our media team times it so that every time I get in my car, I hear one of our advertisements on the radio, and on my way this afternoon, that is one of the ones that I heard, and they talked about our Be Present sessions as well, so they time it really well. We also have our CPS Tool Talks on October the 5th. This is important because this focuses on our students that have an IEP, our special needs students, an individualized education plan, and it's focusing on a specific section of that plan. So parents can attend, caregivers can attend, and get additional information. And last but not least, CPS Moves Million Step Challenge is winding down. Did anyone in the room wave at me if you participated at all with us this summer? I see a few hands. Yes. Okay, so as a part of a unique partnership with Go Vibrant, we started in June participating in the Go Vibrant Challenge, Neighborhood Challenge, and the focus was to get 1 million steps by the end of September. So we have a few more weeks left. I do believe it's important for us to be active. My team knows that. And we really, for the month of June, and we ended in July. For the month of June, it's part of the time in July, at our office on Wednesday, we did Walking with Right Wednesdays. So the team came out, we did a few laps around the building together. And then not only was it a time for us to get out, enjoy some vitamin D and be active, but it also gave us an opportunity to just connect with one another in the middle of the day and enjoy the beautiful sunshine. So that was great. All right, so our focus today is supporting our multilingual learners. I do want to thank our team that's here today that works with our department. Our commitment, we're driven to create a diverse school and diverse places for our learners. It is important to recognize that we serve a diverse population across the district. Within the last several years, you'll see it on a slide in just a moment, within the last several years, our population of multilingual families has increased across the city, across the district, and a greater increase post-COVID. Right now, we have 77 different languages spoken in CPS. If you did not know that, wave at me. Right. That's why strategies is so important. Strategies are important because I know a lot of individuals that are skilled in a lot of different things. I don't know any one person that can speak 77 different languages. So when people say send them to the ESL teacher, that doesn't work because the ESL teacher doesn't speak 77 different languages. That's why it's important for all of us to understand the strategies necessary to communicate with our multilingual families. And these are the top languages that are spoken in our schools. Our top language, of course, is Spanish. And the second one from there is Arabic. 85% of our English language learners are supported by translation in the top 3 languages, Spanish, French, and Arabic. Arabic is number 2. You're correct. So there was one that was off. You're correct. Thank you. Okay, so our trends in terms of the increase in our ELL population over the last 5 years. You can see where the increases have happened across the district in the last 5 years. How many people knew this? A few did. A few people did. This is important because as the dynamics of our school district changes, it's important for us to do 2 things. One is to recruit as many teachers and staff members as we can that look like our students. But 2, it's also important that we are working through strategies because, again, I don't know anybody, and thank you for correcting us on the number 3, but I don't know anybody that speaks the 77 languages. So we have to make sure that we have the necessary resources to communicate with our families. Currently, we offer English language learner supports in a variety of ways. And so this just gives a continuum of what those services look like. Universal supports in all schools. And then we look at ELL building-based or specialists. So these are individuals that work in school buildings that provide small group instruction to our students. We also have targeted English support for our students as well. And these are students that are scoring at a proficient level in the core areas. So these students, when you think about the language test that they need to take, they're scoring proficient. Then we have a different type of support that works with them. And lastly, our newcomer or our SLIFE program, and these are students that speak limited to no English. And so they're generally in sheltered programs where we can provide the most intensive support for them. In terms of the enrollment process, and I just wanted to make sure that we had this slide so that we could also share it with families, and you can share it with others as well, because it's important that during registration, it's important to know we have our bilingual social worker that does the initial contact with the families. That's something that's really important. And then from there, we do the interview and orientation as we're thinking about where the best placements may be for the student. We do any necessary assessments that we need to do. It is important that the student is identified. We use the term flag here, but I want you to know what that means. It is important that they're identified in PowerSchool, and that is our student information system. So that's where we enroll our students. That's where they get their schedules. That is important because that tells anyone that interacts with that student, if they leave one school and go to another school, it lets them know what kind of services they should receive. So that's why it's important. And then, of course, is to have overall positive communication, communicating with the student, any additional supports that they need, communicating with the family and or the caregiver. These are our current SLIFE newcomer centers. And when you look at the areas for where our students are located and where many of them are moving in the city, the goal was to also make certain that we were as comprehensive as we could be, but we were also had a scenario where transportation would not be a barrier for our families. This year, as we think about support, so we've done a couple of different things in terms of thinking about supports. This year, one of the positions, and some of you follow the work that we've been doing in terms of budget, and as we've been making recommendations or as we made recommendations for different supports, one of the areas that we provided additional support to were for our schools that have the greatest number of our ELL students. And one of the positions that they received for all of the schools, some schools were using different positions in the past to try to get the same service done. So we streamlined that across the district, and we added an ELL coordinator position at all of our schools. So that is someone that acts as a go-between, a conduit. They can assist with testing for the students. They're able to provide additional support for the families. They're able to work in partnership with the principal to make sure that we're providing the level of support that we need for the families. These are the schools that currently have an ELL coordinator, and that was based on just the percentage of ELL learners, of English language learners that were in the school buildings. This particular slide always makes me smile, and I don't know. Let me do that. Can I press it? Yes. Hello, families of our ELL students. I am Superintendent Ironetta Wright.
And I'm Board President Ben Lindy. We are so excited to share how together we can make this summer a summer of reading.
There is a lot of research about the science of reading, and the best thing you can do as a family is read together.
To help many of our families and students, our team will be visiting neighborhoods this summer to distribute books.
Students will receive a backpack of decodable books by Just Right Reader, and they will be able to practice reading in English and Spanish all summer long. Every time your child reads one of their books, it keeps their phonics skills strong so they're ready for the year ahead.
These books are fun, colorful, and tell stories that get kids excited to read and then keep reading.
Plus, every book comes with a memorable video that teaches a phonics skill. Just scan the QR code on the back of the book to watch the video in English or Spanish.
Have your child add their name on their Just Right Reader backpack, fill it with their books, and bring the power of reading everywhere they go.
Every bit of reading counts, and we can't wait to hear about your child's favorite books. Be sure to share your reading adventures on social media with the hashtag Cincinnati Readers. Enjoy and happy reading. So that was the video that went along with this initiative. During this initiative, we hired 30 CPS staff members for 6 weeks. And these individuals actually went out to homes, to families, to deliver these books to families in the backpack. We know that many of our families have been marginalized and have not felt comfortable with individuals coming to their homes. So we also found alternate locations that families felt comfortable coming to then meet with our staff, to talk about the resources that were available, to give them the books, and to show them how to use the lesson as well. There are a lot of different decodables when we think about students learning to read. The one thing that made these decodables unique was the lesson on the back of the book. So not only did it provide instruction for the student, but in many of our families, it provided additional support and instruction for them as well. This particular organization started with Spanish. That was the only additional language that they offered. It was so successful for us, they've already contacted me and said that they are willing to work with us to do the same thing in Arabic, since that's our next language. And so we're really excited about that, and we're looking forward to that. Oh, wow, thank you. Looking forward to that for this year. You all can go ahead and clap if you like. I'll stop talking so you can clap. The other thing that is really important, and as a school principal, as a middle school principal, I was the principal in a school that had what we called an ESOL program. In my school, my students spoke 43 different languages. And so, and now I'm talking, my older daughter is 23, so that was about 23 years ago when that happened. But the thing that's also important and that I've learned over this period of time is not only is it important to get the academic support, but there are so many additional social services supports that our families need. Many of them are coming to the country, they're not documented, they don't have the resources that they need, and they don't always know how to navigate to get those things. So we want to continue to do that work so that it helps our school locations be a one-stop shop for our families. And so not only were we able to take books and make people feel comfortable and help get applications done and all of those things, we also were able to offer support and assistance in acquiring an EBT card. We were also able to offer transportation support, enrollment assistance, and give additional information for how they would get access to school supplies. To me, I think this was a win. And it was important for our families to recognize that we are here to be supportive and we are a part of the team. So I would like to give a round of applause to my ESL team that's here right now that took the vision and made it happen, because they did an amazing job. They really did. Rob, okay, there it is. Okay, so as we're looking ahead and we're winding down so we can open up for questions, as we look ahead, our focus is continuous improvement. Number one, we want to make sure that all of our families recognize that they are not an afterthought, that they are a part of the conversation that we're doing, and it's important that we say that and we say it loudly, not just with our words, but also with our actions. So the first is to continue an intentional focus on our literacy events for our multilingual families. In many of our schools, we have literacy events for a variety of things. We had specific events this year that were for multilingual families, but we want to continue to expand that. Not because we don't want them to participate in the other events. We do want you to participate in the other events. But there's also something really special about having everybody come together to celebrate who you are, to celebrate your culture, and to also be able to talk to you about the work that's happening in our school district. So it's a way for us to honor the cultures that are in our district while we're also providing support. Additional training and monitoring for the use of our translation services. We use 3 major translation services, and we want to make certain collectively, again, that we're thinking of those things as a forethought and not an afterthought. So continued training for our team. Talking Points is one of our services. The other is School Messenger. And how many have ever used Google Translate? Anybody has? So on our website, at the very top of our website, you can go to the top, select your language, and it changes our website to the preferred language. So it makes the information that's on our website. We put a lot of information on our website, and it's not just in the videos. We put a lot that's written because we do have families that are not always able to access the videos. So we want to make sure that the information is written as well. So we want to continue to share this information with our families. We'd like for you to, from each one, to share the same thing, because we do want to make sure that everyone has access to the work that we're doing. Totally excited about the partnership that we currently have with our universities around TESOL endorsements for our existing staff. Right now we have about 50 teachers that are currently in that endorsement and 10 paraprofessionals. And in the world that I see us being able to expand that. TESOL essentially gives an additional certification and a level of specialty for teachers to work with multilingual families. Again, I go back to this slide. Nobody can speak how many languages? 77, right? So it's important that we connect with the strategies. And TESOL is one of the ways for us to give that additional layer of support for strategies for our teachers, and our overall staff. And the next, this was one that came up through interaction with families. We want to make certain that we are increasing the opportunity for students to engage in all of the opportunities that we have in the district. One of them is magnet school participation. A lot of our families don't know how to navigate the process, even though they may want their child to go to a specialty program. The other that's also important is what we were able to do this summer in a targeted area this summer, where all of our 6th grade students that were going to 7th grade, but they had not completed an application for 7th grade. So just like we went in the homes to work on the decodables, we were also able to identify those families so that at the beginning of the school, they weren't lost. They had a school that was identified for them that they could go and enroll. So that's something that we'll continue to work with through weekly help sessions. We're working out the specifics right now on whether it will be at our school buildings or whether we'll go to libraries or whether we'll do a combination. But during the open window, which will start in start in December, during the open window, we will publicize and offer those opportunities for the applications. Last but not least, there are helpful links and contact information, and if in doubt, call customer care. Our customer care department, our team makes sure that if families have questions, comments, or concerns, they get to the right place. But did want to acknowledge that we have individuals specific to each of the areas, and I'll leave that there for just 1 minute so that anyone that would like to have that and have access to it, you may do that. So, did you learn anything new? If you learned something new, wave at me. Awesome. So at this time, while this was the focus for today and the information that we're sharing, at this point I just open up and answer any question that you would like to ask. If I know the answer, I'll answer it. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer, but we'll try to figure it out together. Fair enough? All right, so first question.
I'm interested in knowing what can I do to help in my school with the children who need those services. I really want to help with literacy, so if there's anything I can do to help in an after-school program, I'm open and available and willing.
Okay, so the question was, you work at Woodward, and you would like to know what you can do more of to support students at your school, collectively or just for ELL? For ELL, I would say start at your school site. We also have our ELL, our senior director that oversees ELL. We have our new ELL manager that's here tonight. I'm sure they'll connect with you as soon as we finish, because when you say help, we say, when do you want to start? So that they can make sure they'll get information from you and give you a little bit more around what that support could look like. Thank you for that. We appreciate that.
There is
Yes.
there is a Be Present QR code that you can sign up to be a volunteer.
Okay, that's the last one after
So
I do
at the
this.
end.
Yes, I was going to do that last. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Community Action Agency. Thank you. I've been, where should I start? I've been gathering information about the demographic growth of our foreign-born neighbors in the region. This is really important for us to strategically design programs, tailor programs that also do outreach and hiring for hiring practices. So it's just vital. And what we realize is that often the data pools that we have access to, usually the census and the American survey, community survey, they are not as detailed as we need them to be for us to stop sending, messages in a bottle into the sea, right? We need more smarter, intelligent, targeted outreach for all these programs and hiring practices, etc. And I was wondering, there's a chance the Community Action Agency could partner with CPS in sharing data pools, respecting obviously the privacy of individuals. I don't need to know specifically in which neighborhood, I don't know, a household speaks Swahili or not. What I need to know is what are the trends, generally speaking, and so I can hire the right people, so I can tailor the programs properly to attend the needs of these new neighbors that we're having. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. So thank you for sharing that. I would like to say that, your comments is one of the reasons that we started with this topic this year. Because it is important for our inner community and our outer community to recognize that our multilingual families are here, they are in our city, and all of us have to put our arms around them to make sure they get what they need from our community. And if we can be the voice of that, we're the ones to start the conversation. One of the things that you mentioned, the Community Action Agency, and I know Nikki Williams very well. We had this conversation just recently. One of the things that we're doing through a part of our equity work is, and I think that you're one of the ones on the list to invite to the conversation. Our Chief of Staff is leading our equity work right now. And one of the conversations that we've had around that is just what you're talking about. How do we take all of these different spokes in the community, bring them together so that there is one nucleus around the needs, so that we determine what can be shared. There are privacy issues, so there are things that we cannot share, but it's also important that there are certain things that if we communicate with our families and they know that we're talking about resources and services, they would give us permission to do that. So that's a work in progress for us. We also, just last night, we had a joint meeting with our school board and the city council. And in thinking about it, ELL was one of the conversations as a part of that meeting, our multilingual families and how we're looking to support those families. So thank you for asking the question. Make sure we have your information on the list. But I think you've actually emailed us before, so I think I have. When you first started, I think so. I remember. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Carlos Guzman. I work with the Hispanic community and the Price Hill area and all around Cincinnati. And every day I had calls from parents that they would like to be voluntary in the schools. But as you know, first I want to appreciate that the district is focused in the EAL community. But we have some parents, because their legal status doesn't allow them to do, teach in the class. And we have a lot of parents that are teachers from their countries, doctors, and they would like to be part of not work in the school, but work with the teachers and programs and help the kids too. How do you are going to approach that? Second, I know about you show a PowerPoint, the slide program. I know it's 3 schools for the slide program, but I know one school that is the Roberts Academy is where more I work, and we have a lot of families that are coming, but they are sending the kids to the neighbor schools. And we have a newcomers that they can qualify for the slide program at Roberts Academy, but parents are questioning that if they have a program in the school, what are you sending to the neighbor schools?
Right. So thank you for both of the questions. I'll answer the first one and then we go to the second. So a couple of things. We have a lot of multilingual families in the district. So when we think about that and we think about where there are seats available and where there are services available for students, sometimes that means that everybody can't go to one place. So that's why we have the schools that are listed where students can attend. We do try as much as possible to keep them as close to the neighborhood that they're living in, but sometimes it's just not possible because there are only so many seats available. So we have to share the opportunities as we think about what we're looking to do for our students. That's the answer to the second question. The answer to the first question is a little more nuanced because we do have to have certain checks for those that are working with students, even if they're family members, but there are also ways to work around some of those things. I would say that we would start when we finish, and I think our team sees who you are. When we finish, let's get your information and work through what some of those things may be. I thought you were going to ask me I was anticipating what you were going to say. I thought you were going to ask me about the background part of it and if it was possible for us to do a different location so that families could come to one location and do the background work instead of coming to our office downtown. And I was prepared to tell you yes, but you asked me a different question. So we want to make sure that we follow up in terms of that so that we then know what we may be able to do so that we can operate within there. Because there are also some line of sight things that we can do, which essentially means if a person is in the constant line of sight of someone else where they can actually support students. But there are some overall state parameters for it. Okay? Right here. Right here.
This is what is your second year, right?
At the beginning of my second, yes.
Okay, so I don't know how you'll really be able to answer this, I guess, other than looking at the data that you guys have given you. You spoke about achieving the goals that you guys want to make sure you're making progress towards those goals. How do you guys collect data with the algebra and math if our test scores for Cincinnati Public Schools are, I know my son is over at Wanted Hills, and I heard this year the numbers were so much further down than in the past. So how are you guys collecting data? Because not everyone's a good test taker. Not everyone, some excel in the class, some excel in taking tests. So how are you guys going about collecting data to understand, are we making progress towards these goals that you guys want the students to achieve?
Right, thank you for the question. So these are specific to objective data points that we can collect. So these would be specific to our Ohio State test or our end of course exams, which is what it would be for Algebra 1. That's where these numbers come from. So as we're looking at graduation rate, it's specific to graduation rate, our federal graduation rate, 4-year and 5-year actual rate. And in terms of College Credit Plus, it's students that enroll in College Credit Plus and pass the class. Today, some may already know this, our scores were released from the state. All of the report card grades were released. And to be more specific to the Algebra 1 question, because that's one of the areas of focus for us, we actually increased 3 points in Algebra 1 across the district. That's a plus because that means more students are proficient. But as a math teacher, it's hard for me because that's still only 30% of our students that are proficient in Algebra 1. And Algebra 1, again, is that foundational course for our students in math. So these numbers come from the state assessments. So as we start doing our monitoring and our monitoring reports, we will do that based on, in terms of kind of dashboarding where we are, we will do that based on our benchmark assessments. We take a beginning of the year assessment, which serves as the baseline, and then we take a middle of the year assessment, which lets us know if we've made progress from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. And then the final assessment is the state test at the end. So, you know, is it the only?
Based off of taking the state test, because some kids don't test well.
I agree. But the way that you determine in terms of growth, the way that's determined across any school district is based on test scores. So I agree with you. Not all students are great test takers. One of the things I share, and I've been talking to the media all day, but one of the things that I shared with the media today is what I want to encourage students to do is do their personal best. Whatever their personal best is, that's what I want them to do. Having worked in transformative environments for now the last 30 years, I know that when we match the right kind of curriculum with the right kind of instruction, with the right level of instruction, and the appropriate interventions, students show success. It sounds very, very basic, but that's what happens. And it's not immediate because as you're talking about Algebra 1, you're thinking about students that weren't proficient when they left 8th grade that are now going to Algebra 1. So it becomes a cycle. It's our responsibility at this point to identify where we are and then work through our strategies from where we are, find the right resources for our teachers so that they're able to bridge those gaps. One that we've had really good success with this year, and I honestly say that it is a resource I've used previously, and every time I've used it, it has had success. And I walked into a school district that was already using it. So our district has spent a lot of time on making sure that we had high quality curriculum across the district. Curriculum that is aligned with our standards. Not so that when students are what they're doing in classes, they're also able to then see that when they take the assessment. The assessment should not be something foreign to students. Whatever test they're taking, when they take the test, this should be common work for them. But many of our students have been in deficit academically. So therefore, they have not sometimes seen at the same level across the board. And when I talk, I'm talking across the entire district. We have pockets of excellence in different places. But when we think about all of our students collectively, there's been some work that needs to happen. So our goal now is to identify where we are and then begin to bridge those gaps. One of the resources that I walked into that the district was already using, one was the high quality curriculum, especially in the K through 8 space. The curriculum that the district had already selected to use is one of the best in the nation. When you look at Ed Reports, it's kind of like consumer reports for education stuff. Go on there and look at it. And the way that it rates in terms of the way that it prepares students, the level of information that's provided for students, it's one of the best. But one of the challenges was, shortly after the district purchased the curriculum, the pandemic happened. So one of the challenges from that is, because it's different, collectively, you have teachers that have been doing best practice work, so they've been teaching that way for a long time, and it just comes natural to them. For others, it takes some professional learning and some professional development. So it made it very difficult to do the level of professional development necessary during the pandemic. You know, as a teacher, and the teachers in the room will attest to this, I know, and I'm a teacher first. I always recognize that I'm a practitioner. And as a teacher, there is just something really special about getting everybody together and digging into what you're doing and talking about what you're doing in your classroom and how this looks with your students. No different than if you're training a track team. There's some synergy that happens when you get the whole team together to do work. It's the same way for professional learning. So one of the areas that we were able to focus on last year is really beginning to be intimate with the professional learning, because we were able to have people back together and they were able to learn, grow, develop, share, and all of those things. So I know that was a really long answer to your question, but that's how we monitor it. So when you look at our board meetings, you will notice the shift, because we'll start talking about, like the one on Monday, and our monitoring calendar will be online, so you'll be able to see what we're monitoring when. The one on Monday is a baseline from our guardrails. So on Monday, we'll talk about, this is where we ended the year with the guardrails that we're looking at. And then that way we can continue to monitor them a couple of times throughout the year. Question right here, and then right here, and then right here, but I think, and then right here.
Hi, I have two questions. One, concerning our families. I know there's been a lot of requests for adult ESL classes and adult literacy classes. Many of our families are in need of that and are constantly calling us to ask where those are available, and I don't think we have any in the district that are district sponsored. And then my second one is going back to SLIFE students. I don't know that everybody in here knows what a SLIFE student is, and that's a student with limited formal education. So these might be kids who are coming into high school that have a second grade education in their primary language. So they're kids that are coming in very far behind, and we've had an explosion of students who are coming to our schools with that kind of background. And I'm just wondering how many more supports we can put in place for those students, especially, like you said, in the elementary, we only have 3 SLIFE locations, but we also need more at the high school. The high schools are overflowing, and I know we don't have enough teachers, so I'm just concerned to know what we're doing about those things.
So thank you for the question. So first, I think what we're doing is utilizing the data to determine what we do next. Because I actually think it's a plus that we're having the conversation right now. I can't say that's a conversation that I walked into when I walked into the district on May the 2nd. So being able to elevate where the concerns are and how we're beginning to address those concerns, I would say that the team that's working with the work that we've done have seen a vast improvement in that over the last year and a half. Not exactly where we need to be, but definitely a point of initial conversation, not an afterthought. In terms of the questions about the focus, so we have 2 major areas of focus this year for recruitment of staff. Both of them are for needed population. So we know we have our regular needs. We always have needs for high school. We always have need for math and science positions. But just like I talked about earlier, we have a need for multilingual teachers and multilingual staff. And so that's one of the areas of focus for us, as well as our Black Male Initiative, recruiting more Black men into the organization as well. So as a part of this year's budget, those were 2 areas that were put in this year's budget that we just got approved on Monday from the board. As we go through the year, we're really continuing to look at the efficacy of the programs and how they're already in place so that we then monitor what we do next, and then we can look at expansion. We know that there are places that we need to expand. We know that there are some places that they're doing that supportive work because they don't have a choice, so to speak, because the students are coming faster, then you can get the resources there. I'm sure the team is also open, and maybe one of you can share with me. I am not aware of the adult language proficiency classes, but you can share.
So I know that CPS works with Aspire, and Aspire does evening education classes. They're through CPS.
Oh, through adult ed. Through adult ed.
As students age out of our schools, and sometimes are looking for there are 2 pathways. There are ESL classes for adults who are just wanting to learn English, and then there is a pathway that then transitions them into the GED classroom setting. So it's if you are wanting to get a diploma or your diploma alternative and you haven't mastered English as a language yet, you will take the ESL classes until you reach a certain level and then transition, or you can take the classes and stop.
So that is the Aspire program. That's our adult basic ed program that offers 2 different options. I think as we talk about it, and the team can help with this, a part of it becomes really recognizing what resources and services we have available, and then how we're communicating that out to families, because that may be a part of the disconnect. So also making sure that, especially our schools that have our ELL coordinators in them, that they have access to that information so they can share it with families as they reach out. I think you were next.
So in looking at those goals, right, those 5 goals, there was a mention of increasing graduation rate to 97%. And piggybacking off of what she stated, so we are getting, and the issue with the cohorting. So I am the social worker that makes the meetings and registers the students. The cohort doesn't. It is assigned to the calendar year. So if I register a child in April of that year, they are now cohorted to graduate in 3 years and 2 months. And so we are, in order to reach that 97% graduation rate, in addition to the fact that they are 17 with a 2nd grade education now entering in 9th grade, I look to any creative solution. Certain principals are more open to these creative solutions, and some are more focused on traditional pathways. So what tools do we have to create sort of a standardized
flexibility, if you will? Like what?
That's like an oxymoron, right?
Yes.
Standardized
How can
flexibility.
so that we can say to principals who are like, hey, this is how it's done. Hey, this is how it could be done if you want to increase your graduation rate. Because if we can't get the flexibility, we cannot get the graduation rate that we're seeking.
So I think it's two different things. Having had experience in creating newcomer programs in my first district, and in the second district of creating specific newcomer programs that were for students that were beyond 16. So they were cohorted in a specialized program because their needs were very different, and some of those students were also SLICE students. And so we have to think more nuanced, again, I use that term again, but we have to think more nuanced about how we do programming so that it doesn't become the responsibility of an individual principal to say, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do this, but it becomes this is a district-wide approach to addressing this issue. That has to be a work in progress for us because we don't have any leeway. If they show up and they enter into the 9th grade and it's April before they do that, that's the beginning of their cohort, and we can't do anything about that at that point. But there are some things that we can do, even looking at the personalized curriculum. The state allows us to use a personalized curriculum. We've not done that much in our district. And so that becomes an opportunity as well as we begin to move forward. So those things are works in progress, not just for our ELL students, but there are other students that could benefit from that as well. There are students that, given the service and given the opportunity, they could graduate faster, and that's okay for them to do that if we use that approach. So it's that would be a work in progress for us. I think you were next.
First of all, my name is Maribel Cortez. I work for GE Aerospace in some of the initiatives they have with GNX engineers. Probably you know about that, big one, which I think is great, but to me it's not like 100% success because we have a community, and I'm speaking about the Hispanic community, where the parents, they don't know how to register the kids. They don't know how to, they don't have even the mindset of applying, right? They don't know, they don't have it. So when I see the numbers and they don't apply, to me it's a failure, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm putting what I'm trying to push them into understand our community as we are. And you show great things that we are talking with a group of parents. We want to really train the parents because I think the success of all of this, which is great, is on the parents. We need to educate the parents. Even though they know English, is their obligation to me, like, you need, go to the house, see the kids, do your homework. Only that. They don't need English, they don't need anything else, right? To be parents, really be parents. However, I've seen kids, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, they speak the English before, like in 3 months, and they are telling all the things to the parents, right? They are lying, they are telling them, hey. So the English is not really, or the second language is not really down, is a tool for them to really do whatever they want, unfortunately, right? That's the reason. I was also part of during the pandemic, you mentioned the lack of resources. I used to live in the suburbs in Loveland. My daughters, all my friends had their laptops. Here in CPH, they didn't have it. And then we started running programs inside the company and work with you, distributing laptops to the kids. However, I felt like, okay, giving them the resources, they are going to be engineers the next year. That's not true. He told me. The reality, they have to eat first. So the parents, again, our culture, we need to understand the culture. We need to understand why they are coming from. Sometimes they have to pay back to the people who brought them here, right? That's the reality. And the kids have to go to work. Yeah. That's the reality. So we want to help. We are a group of families, mothers. We are actually, we have a line of students who were to CPS, to Withrow, right? Who many people think that Withrow is the worst school. I believe it's a lovely one because I was helping kids there. And these kids are at GC. Now one of them is going to GE. So, but we need to be intentional and having these kids. We need to provide the information where they can go. The volunteer parents that want to do it, let's do a volunteer list. We just needed a place to go because we don't know where to start. So,
thank you. Thank you so much. And again, I appreciate the feedback. Our team is here. We're here for this very purpose. And I believe that there's growth in the room. I really do. I think that I feel really, my heart is warm right now because I know that this is a need for our community. It's a need for our school district, but it's a greater need for our community. And there are so many people that are willing to assist. They just have to know where to start. And I think CPS as the nucleus of that is the right thing. I think you're next.
Okay, I wanted to also know what can I do as an instructor, because I'm interested in becoming a multilingual teacher if I know the resources. And I saw the TSOL. How do I get involved, or how do I get connected in being a part of that and getting that additional credential?
Let me have the team talk to you about that specifically. This is a program where most of the individuals are working on their teaching certification at the same time. So they're going through full teaching certification and doing TESOL, but there are other options and opportunities for that. There are also other trainings that will give you additional support as well. It may not give you the complete credential, but it would give you some additional support. So I'll have the team talk to you about that. Yes.
Hi, my name is Konique Larby. I'm a proud mom of a kid who started preschool with the IEP and who is now in Gen Ed and is only pulled out for his studies, for therapies on the side. So I'm so proud of that, and I've worked with CPS from the beginning. It's been nothing but a struggle. However, I want to know if there's a clear map of ELL, the magnet schools in Hamilton County based upon addresses. I know a lot of times people buy homes, they rent homes, and they would love for their kids to go to a school, but it's not their neighborhood school. Sometimes it seems like there's a secret list of how to get my son into this school, how to get my daughter into this school. Is there a clear map of, based on demographic or addresses or streets or neighborhood, of which schools we can send our kids to that offers ELL? Because there's only 6 buildings, right? How do we divide that up? Or do we even have a choice of saying, hey, I want my son to go to a school that has an ELL coordinator in the building. However, I live in College Hill. Maybe there's not, based upon my address, luckily Mount Airy is my neighborhood school. So I have the opportunity. However, before I rented there, I did not know that. Is there a clear list based upon addresses where we can send our schools?
Okay, so there's 2 questions at once. I'm going to answer both of them for you. So the first answer is, on our district website, there is a location for you to put in your address, and it will tell you the school that is your neighborhood school. So that's the first thing. So yes, so the answer to that part is yes. For our high schools, outside of our magnet programs, our high schools are open enrollment, 7th through 12th grade. So there is not necessarily the same thing for a high school based on your address. What we've created this year that's also on our website, and we put a lot of information on our website because we want our website to be a true resource. So that if you have a question about something, we really believe you should be able to go to the website and get that question answered. So on our website now, and this is new, I mean, it was probably released 2-3 months ago, if it's been that long. On our website, we have the All Schools Guide. The All Schools Guide on the website does the rest of what you're talking about. So it gives you all of our schools in the district, all of the program, I'll come back to you in a second. It gives all of our schools in the district, all of the programs that the schools offer, the grade levels that they service, the additional programs that might be at those schools, but that's how we access it right now. So that's where we are right now in terms of being able to answer those questions for you. Second part of your question.
So as a parent, I also do PTA, so I would like to make things as clear as possible for parents, especially parents who speak English as a second language. I find just going to the website and typing in the zip code to find out is not really clear cut, right? Is there any way that we can make it clear, just put out there, you move to this neighborhood, this is the school that your kid is gonna go to? I don't like, I don't wanna use big words or whatever, but I just would like it to be in plain English.
Yeah.
Nothing so that it could be understood any other kind of way, just the straight and clear lines, because a lot of times I find people going to the Board of Education versus going to the website for answers. I think it will reduce the number of parents who have to physically take time out of their day to go to the Board of Education to find out where can I send my school, what are my options, versus to going to the website because the website is not as clear cut. I would love to see a map.
So I appreciate the feedback. I think that there are a couple of different things that go along with that, and that would be something that we would have to work through in terms of semantics, what it looks like on the map, how you get something that you can point and click and it shows you the address and all of those things. There is a map that's on there, and actually it's not a zip code when you go. I understand. I hear what you're saying, but so what I would also recommend that could be helpful to us is the other recommendations that you have for the best way for us to get that out to families. Share them with our communications person, because for every response that I can give, there's a what if scenario that doesn't work, right? And so we want to make sure that we are as comprehensive as possible. We also want to make sure that we are as efficient as possible. One of the things that we find, and this is not just unique to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is my third school district in my third state, so it's not just unique to Cincinnati. But one of the things that we find is that our families move quite a bit. So mailing information out to homes a lot of times is problematic because it becomes wasteful for us, because most of the mail eventually gets returned. So that's one of the reasons that we utilize robocalls so much. That's one of the reasons that we try to get information out on the website so much, because those are two things that we can do that don't become cost prohibitive. So if you have other ideas, share it with them. If there are ways that we can do a map and put it in school buildings or put it around the community so people can just pick them up, we're open to doing that. The All Schools Guide is also in hard copy around the city as well, as an additional resource, but we're open. So if there are other recommendations you have for how we might be able to figure that out, willing to do it. And as a special education teacher, kudos to your son. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm Cheryl Rice-Bernard, the Executive Director and Founder of Heartfelt Tidbits. So our primary role is to support immigrants and refugees living in Southwest Ohio and getting them to become self-sufficient, as well as welcoming them and tying them to the community and resources. So we do work with a lot of schools within the 275 loop. CPS, I am a lead agency. I talked to you the other day. So one of the challenges, or one of the things I want to know, is which resettlement, which organizations have you reached out to say, hey, come to the table, let's have a seat and talk about what you're doing inside of the schools, what you're seeing with the families inside CPS. I know you talked about transparency. I sent you a letter that also went to the board prior to Summer Scholars with some of my concerns, as well as what Heartfelt Tidbits was going to do to help the learning loss with our K through second graders. But I never heard anything, right? And I think to be really successful in this field or in this area, there has to be a dialogue happening here, right? Because the community, as they said, these adults aren't speaking English, many of them. Their kids can't bring these issues to you, but we're addressing the issues every day. My case manager, Project Connect, the social workers, I mean, we're in the weeds with these individuals, and we know 400 Venezuelans just arrived. One of my schools is Rising Stars Carthage. Dr. Jackson said today, we got a 5-star rating because you're the lead agency. You're in here providing a lot of support to our staff. So I think that could be much better if there was this dialogue.
And again, I think I've shared a few different times, and I share the same thing again. We're here tonight for a purpose. And one of the reasons that we're here tonight is to make sure that we are opening ourselves up to the needs of the overall community as we think about the specific needs of our ELL populations. We have about 12 different organizations that we've reached out to in terms of communicating around ELL. The equity conversation that we're talking about, those same individuals are on that list as well for them to come in and be a part of that conversation in that meeting. I think sometimes when individuals start having communication, they forget that I started on May the 2nd of last year. And starting on May the 2nd, there is a lot that has to happen in a school district starting on May the 2nd. Now moving into the second year, there are other things that did not require the same level of stabilization at that time, but that are still very important, that we can begin to also focus on those things. This is one of those areas. Special education is one of those areas. So making sure that we are having the conversations and we're getting the collective buy-in for the work that we're doing across the district. I say, and I'll come to you next, I say that one unique thing about my role is every day, I don't think I had one of those today, but almost every day, and my staff has heard me say this, my goal is to tick off fewer people today than I did yesterday. Because it doesn't matter what decision I make, somebody is not going to like that decision. Summer Scholars was one of those. There was no win in Summer Scholars. The overall reality for that, there was not a win for that. And so looking at what we're doing with unfunded mandates, but knowing that we have the needs for our students, we make the best decisions that we can possibly make. So I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you for being on the call last week. I spoke actually to my senior director after I had the conversation with you so that we could have some of those conversations so we could look at how we move forward to the next level. Yes.
It's not a, it's not an attack on what you've accomplished. What I'm saying though is that, I mean, I'm a partner, right? So to me, a partner, it's two ways, right? I want you to be successful so that my family can be successful. That's why I even signed up to do the lead agency thing. That's not our mission, right? I signed up and said, I'm gonna do it because it will benefit our families. We have a family resource navigator at AWL who has been able to catch a lot of things before they happen and forward them to our case manager. We work with Project Connect on getting our ELL families tied into housing, providing transportation for weeks from the hotels into the schools so kids aren't having
Right.
worry costs. So when I say this, it's from a very sincere place of how do we have this conversation of, you know, how do we partner? Just like with Sergio here with CAA, I said, we have families who can't get to food pantries. So if Restore Food Bank can send them via Amazon, I'll provide the volunteers with Restore. That's what it looks like.
Right.
It's more than a discussion, it's about how does the community support the schools better and the families inside them.
Thank you. And I think in terms of our family and community engagement team, that entire team was probably the one that was the most cohesive throughout the last year. And so in terms of thinking about, those were the same individuals that worked with our lead agencies that had worked with them previously. Those were the same individuals that had the monthly meetings with them so that they could act as conduits between the work that we're doing across the district. So I don't take anything personally at all, because I don't believe that anybody shows up to a session to do any personal attack for me. I don't believe that. I believe the only way that we get better is by being honest about what we're doing, taking feedback and beginning to grow, to move forward. I'll come to you after this one. That's the only way that we can do it. You can't take a job like this and not have broad shoulders. It's just not possible. Because again, every day, my goal is to tick off fewer people today than I did yesterday. Because any decision that I make, somebody is not going to be okay with it. So I appreciate your feedback. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yo soy Catalina Wilkie y yo soy profesora de español en el colegio de Walnut Hills. Y yo llevo más de 20 años en el distrito de CPS. También yo soy moderadora del Club de Español, así que yo tengo muchos estudiantes que tienen interés en ambos, aprender el idioma, la cultura y conocer a más gente. Así que yo quiero ser un recurso para la gente aquí. Soy Kathleen Wilkie, Catalina Wilkie, entonces estoy aquí, quiero conocer a ustedes y ser parte del puente, ¿verdad? So, I teach Spanish at Walnut Hills, and I also am the Spanish Club moderator. So I feel super passionate about using language skills to help people. I lived in Costa Rica for a year, an experience that changed my life, and also gave me a second family, you know, in Costa Rica. So I just had a Spanish Club meeting today, mentioned heartfelt tidbits, so we need to exchange information, but Walnut Hills is a huge school. We have so many students. They have big hearts. They want to help. So I would like to be part of that help.
Thank you. I haven't. Let me get some voices that I haven't heard, and I haven't heard your voice tonight. Okay. Translate. Can you translate for me? Okay.
Soy Raquel Sotelo. El año pasado fui voluntaria de Herford Tibbetts en el programa de Young Readers
So I was a volunteer with Healthy Tidbits in the program of Young Readers
en la escuela de Carthage.
in Carthage School.
Algo que he observado es que los niños no están aprendiendo bien precisamente por el problema de los padres.
So what I've observed there is that children aren't necessarily learning well as a result of things happening with the parents.
Entendí lo que manifestaba la compañera y esa es la dificultad. Mi interés de estar acá en esta reunión es saber qué programa o qué plan tiene el servicio educativo para apoyar a los padres.
So I understood what you're saying, and I felt that. So my question is, because of what I observed, what plan does CPS have to address the fact that our child learning struggles stem from they're not educated themselves in the way that they want their children to be. So how are we addressing from the parent now, basically, this question?
En el campamento de verano este año con Herford Tibbetts tuvimos una experiencia interesante con las madres que traían a los niños al campamento.
So we, at the summer learning program that Heartfelt Tidbits had this summer, we had an interesting experience with the mothers who brought their children to that learning site.
Conseguimos las tareas que dan a los niños en la escuela y trabajamos eso mismo con las madres.
We used the same material we were working with on the children, and we went over those with the mothers.
Entonces ellas entendieron en qué consiste la tarea que los niños deben hacer en la escuela.
So that they can fully understand what it means to do the homework that they're supposed to be doing at school.
En ese entender, mi pregunta siempre ha sido, ¿cómo ayudamos a estos padres? ¿Y qué hace el servicio educativo para ayudar a estos padres?
So how can we help them? What is the school system doing to help them in that way?
Esa es mi pregunta.
Thank you. And thank you for the questions. And I think that it is a overall comprehensive response, because the reality is CPS cannot fix that issue alone. It's not possible. We cannot. What we can do is make ourselves available. What we can do is make the resources available, just like you're referencing the work that happened at Heartfelt Tidbits. That was one of the reasons that we gave the resources like we did that went into homes, so that when those students received those backpacks with the 8 books in them, on the back of them there was also instruction that families could then use. So it helps to build capacity within the overall family. The second thing I think that is important is that we call on the energy and the synergy of our bilingual families and our bilingual staff in our school district, because it's also important for children to see themselves in the work that they're doing. So many of our children, their experiences have not necessarily been the same. And using those that are in our school district, that are around the school district, that have a vested interest in the school district, so that they are able to see themselves and what can be, what possibilities could be for them, is something else that we can really do and begin to continue to elevate as a school district. I think the third goes back to the question that was asked earlier, is to continue the conversation, to continue to bring individuals to the table so that they can help us work through this, so that we work through it together, because CPS cannot fix it alone. CPS, it doesn't have the resources or the capacity to fix it alone. That's just like asking the question of what do I do about a family who the parent in the home, and it's not necessarily bilingual, but the parent can't read in the home, right? It's not a different scenario, it's the same thing. What can we do? Well, we talk to the families about what we can offer in the school district, but more importantly, we encourage them in terms of Be Present. That's where our Be Present initiative came from. Every family does not have the ability, every parent doesn't have the ability to help their child with homework. And sometimes that's hard for parents to admit that. So we want all parents involved. So even if you can't help your child with the homework that they're doing in the evenings, you can provide a place for them to do the homework. You can encourage them to do the homework. If there's assistance that's happening at the school, you can make sure that they're there for the additional assistance. All of our students have computers that they take home. You can make sure that they're doing the lessons that are on the computer. iReady is a great resource for our K through 6 students specifically that are using it, right, K through 5, and we have some of our K through 8 schools that are using it as well. So I think I don't have the one answer to that, but I do know that we can't do it in isolation. It's going to take all of us to come together and do as much as we can to provide the continued support to our families. Last one. Now, let's hear voices. Any other voices that I haven't heard already that have a question? I think I've seen both of those hands before. Okay, I'll take those last two, and then we're finished.
I have a response to what she was saying and the conversation we were just having. And one of the things that I think, also in response to you, is family community coordinators. They need to be educated because they don't know all the community resources. And I've been deep in the trenches with families, and I never referred anybody to you because I didn't really know you existed. So there's a lot of things that we can do to educate our family resource coordinators and to give them guidance on how to do this work. And they can also be part of the solution for educating the families. We can also use Schedule E money to hire people to have after school programs for our parents and families, not just our students, but we can invite parents to that. So there are mechanisms that we can put into place, but it might also require some resources, which might mean extra money for those teachers, which already exists in our Schedule E budget, but we have to get that approved. So we need to have that conversation to know what the needs are, to then be able to offer those resources, and that's it.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add something. We were talking about our community migrant. At Roberts Academy, we have a Roberts Welcome Center that we serve all the Cincinnati community, part of the Kentucky too, all over to Columbus and Dayton. And we have last year, we started our ESL class for adults with 25 students and 60 on waiting lists. We started a partnership with Cincinnati State, and thanks God, in most of the programs that are open in the community that are free, always we start with 50 enrolled for the beginning of the ESL class, and then maybe 5 in the program. This year, it was amazing that 25 start and 25 end of the program. But this has to do with the flexibility that the district did and the Welcome Center too. The Cincinnati Learning Community Institute, that is the lead agency at Roberts Academy, also working with the district too, close to provide the service that the parents need. But as you mentioned, in other schools that they didn't know the resources that are available. And I think it's very important that all the schools in the district be on the same page. Because I'm going to give you an example that we have a family that can go to maybe Midway, and maybe the person in the front office is new, and the parent coming to the office for enrollment or looking for something else. Maybe a place to live, maybe food. But the person doesn't speak Spanish, and they go to the front office, necesito ayuda, like I need help. But the person will say, sorry, we can help you. And that happened in many cases. And not just, that is just one example. But I think to let the administration and the office personnel everyone be on the same page, to have a list of the other resources. I know you have a PowerPoint in there where you release some names in there, but I think no other schools has that information. And I think in the training that the district do to the employees, I think that it could be a good a push for the new people to learn them and to learn what the resources are available for their families. Because I like one of the slideshows and the picture that they're saying that I like how the CPS treat me like my family, but unfortunately that doesn't happen in other neighbor schools or magnet schools. So it's just to be, bring the attention to you so you can address that. But we have a lot of resources in our community. In Cincinnati, if we compare Cincinnati to Hamilton, in Cincinnati we have a lot of resources, and the district is working with a lot of agencies. The thing is that in many cases, we always say we blame, sometimes we blame the district, sometimes we blame our parents, but it's a win-win. We have to work together, and everyone has to be on the same page to provide the resources that the families need, because the goal is to have the students, have successful students at the end, but it's a circle. The child is in the middle, and everyone has to work around.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for being here tonight. We are putting up our QR codes. One is to take the event survey. We want feedback on what we did tonight, whether or not this was beneficial, whether it was time well spent for you, so that we know how to cater these moving forward. Of course, if you want to be a volunteer, you can also take the Be Present pledge. You can do the second QR code for that. And the last, everyone in our school district already receives our Alphabet Soup newsletter, and that's a monthly newsletter that comes out. There's a video that goes with it, and it talks to you about all of the happenings that's happening in the district. If you would like to sign up for that, just complete that as well, and we will make sure that you're getting that also. Thank you for your time. Thank you to my team for being here tonight. I really appreciate you. You all have a wonderful evening.